Welcome to the Career Jitsu Podcast, where we connect the art of Jiu-Jitsu with your career. Our mission is to empower and inspire you with engaging conversations and valuable insights from people just like you who benefit from the shared relationship between your workplace and the art of Jiu-Jitsu, leading you to a more fulfilling and successful life.
Welcome to the Career Jitsu Podcast, everyone. We are so excited. This week, we have the chance to speak to a gentleman named Rob Williams from Australia. We are talking with somebody from all the way across the world. Again, we are kind of going viral in Australia, which is awesome. Rob is a black belt in BJJ. He is an owner of a jiu-jitsu school called Meadowbrook Jiu-Jitsu. And Rob is going to he's going to dive into today a lot of things about the psychology of BJJ, his philosophy on jiu-jitsu, and the benefits of jiu-jitsu in your life. He has gone through a multitude of things in his life. He was actually he was telling us earlier, he was a professional mountain biker. And he has gone through many medical issues where he has had to overcome. So we are going to be so excited to have a chance to share with our listeners how he has overcome the adversities that he has faced in his life. So, Frank, take it over, buddy.
Yeah. So, Rob, thanks so much for joining our podcast here. We're really excited to have you. And for our listeners, Rob's background is he grew up in a very disadvantaged neighborhood, saw a lot of gang violence. He's had a lot of personal medical issues, and he's overcome a lot of things. So you're going to get some juicy stories in this one, some very interesting stories. We're really excited. So, Rob, let's kick it off with let our listeners know a little bit about why you got into jiu-jitsu, and how you got into it.
Well, my father was in the military in South Africa in a pretty serious way. So I grew up in the middle of the Rhodesian bush wars. So Dad was literally out killing people every night. We had to hide the fact we were a military family. We ended up moving to New Zealand because the house beside us that was mistaken for our house got blown up. And so we had to move to New Zealand, where my mum's from. Then Dad opened a gun shop there, right? So very violent little town, the Timaru. So it has the highest crime rate in New Zealand. It's a port. There's only 30,000 people there. There's thousands of gang members. And so because it's a small port, there's low security. It's got good access routes all over the country. So all the gangs use it for transporting drugs and stuff like that backwards and forwards. So there's a massive gang presence in our hometown. And so I grew up with all my friends being in one gang or another, and I wasn't into that, right? So like my whole thing since I was really young was just martial arts and bikes. That's all. So my life has always been about those two things. I was either racing bikes professionally and martial arts was my hobby, or I've been a professional martial arts coach and biking as my hobby. So I'm literally, hence the mess around at the start with our podcast today, because my headphones that were in the car, my bikes were ready to go straight after the podcast so I can get out and ride before class. And our audio was going through those. So I still ride a lot. And so I did martial arts my whole life. My first fight, I was like 4.5 years old. We were on the boat from South Africa to Sydney. Some kid took my toy. My dad taught me how to roll my hands up in a fist, got me to punch his hands, and told me to go and do it to that kid and get my toy back, right? So, but that's the story of my dad, right? So he became an alcoholic when we got to New Zealand and became very violent. Mum started taking me to judo classes. And, you know, Dad's attitude was you can't lose, you mustn't lose, you have to find a way to win. And so he was literally telling me to throw kids into tables and walls and stuff. And so I would do what Dad said. And then after a couple of years, they asked me to leave. Then I went to karate. The same thing happened at 3 different academies. So these days when I get like ADD kids or stuff like that, or kids that have come from troubled pasts and they play up a bit in class, I'm pretty tolerant with them. And I try and make a big joke out of it with everybody, you know, including the kids. I go, man, you should have seen me at the same age. I was out of control, right? You know, and
So you got ejected from 3 martial arts schools because you were too violent.
and I
So
was like, wow.
take us through how you got into the jiu-jitsu and how that grew into your own school.
I saw the UFC on the TV there, and I'm like, all my friends were like, "That's you." Yeah, like I can just go smash people. I was a wrecking machine. I was super fit, and now I had jujitsu in my back pocket. John Will came over from Australia and did a seminar there, invited me to to Australia, and so I came to Australia as a stepping stone to go to the UFC. I'd already contacted Helson Gracie. I'd already contacted Ken Shamrock and the Lions Den. I said to Ken, because that was the first like MMA gym in the world. So I'm like, that's where I'm going. They got the toughest guys. It's proper MMA training. They all look jacked as hell and kill each other. I really wanted to fight in Pride. So they were already fighting in Japan a lot and stuff like that. And so coming to Australia was supposed to just be a stepping stone on the way to the UFC, but I ended up in Melbourne and MMA was illegal there. So jiu-jitsu was really big. So I learnt a lot more into jiu-jitsu and ended up running an academy and then end up with like 9 academies. So it was,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you
I shouldn't have
developed
done that. That was stupid.
yeah, going through all of those things, you've developed a pretty strong will. You're a very strong-minded person, and
Yeah.
your jujitsu training, you do established a lot of respect for the art of jujitsu, and then started focusing on it. And then you said that, through your training, you started to really get a little bit obsessed with the brain and the body and how
Yeah.
you started becoming fascinated with how important the philosophies and psychologies of jujitsu are to
Yeah.
your training, because we know we all train jujitsu, all three of us here, and most of our listeners train jujitsu as well. You cannot go through a career in jujitsu without getting injured.
True.
It's a physical sport. It's a physical martial art.
Yeah.
You said that can you tell our listeners a little bit about that you were telling me earlier about a back injury, a neck injury that you sustained, and can you tell our listeners a little bit about how that injury occurred and what you learned from that injury?
Yeah, sure. So since I was very young, as I said, there were libraries in the martial arts academies that I went to. So from the age of like 6, I was reading books on philosophy and all these sorts of things. All the Japanese martial arts are all very philosophical and stuff like that. So there was this mind, body, spirit thing I was already reading about, always interested in. I had this insane family. And so I was always trying to like figure out like why are mum and dad like that? How come my friends' parents aren't like that? Maybe it's my fault. What's wrong with me? And so I was just hyper analyzing this mind, body, spirit thing all my life. And then yeah, in jiu-jitsu, like I think there's a big thing about injuries in jiu-jitsu, but what people don't realize is that by far the majority of people that join jiu-jitsu have pre-existing injuries. So I started jiu-jitsu lying on my left side because I'd smashed myself into so many trees and stuff and rocks mountain biking that I started with a destroyed left side. My left knee was wrecked. So I had to lie on my left side to protect it, right from day one. And so I think that when people are talking about injuries in jiu-jitsu, it's important that you look at like what percentage of the population are joining jiu-jitsu with injuries already. And I always say that like the majority of my students are over 40, so they're all starting with injuries. And sometimes they are looking at quitting because of their injury. And I'm like, look, you can go do lawn bowls and your knee is still going to give you a hard time, right? You're going to complain about that knee and that shoulder for the rest of your life, regardless of what you do. So you might as well do something that's really fun if you're going to complain about it, right? Like do what you want to do and find a way to work around it.
Yeah, you find ways to adapt, and you try to find the ways things that you can do instead of worrying about all the things that you can't do. You try to
That
find
is
the things that you
literally our
can
new
do.
philosophy. I almost made it our new motto the other day. Do what you can do, not what you want to do.
That's a great quote. That's an amazing
I come
quote. I'm
up
gonna.
with crazy stuff like that all the time. I was going to put on a t-shirt. I put everything on t-shirts usually. So
So you haven't yet patented that one, huh?
no, not yet, but you can.
So that's a good. That's definitely good. Do what you can, not what you want to. That's a
Yeah,
great.
and that should be the philosophy for anybody over like 35 doing jiu-jitsu. Yeah. You get injured, you do what you can do, not what you want to do, right? You do what you want to do, you hurt your knee again, puts your rehab back another 3 months or whatever it happens to be.
So
So,
Rob, walk us a little bit through some of the injuries you had were
all
very
right,
severe.
all right,
Talk a little bit about that and how you bounced back from that.
all right, so like maybe 16, 18 broken ankles, 6 broken knees. I did torn my labyrinths in my hips. I've busted most of my vertebra, torn rotator cuffs. I got tendons hanging out of my wrists. Fingers don't close. Busted my neck. Nearly I paralyzed myself a couple of times. Yeah, that's just off the top of my head. So when students get injuries, like this week, the first thing one guy goes, "Hey, I did something on my ankle. Like, what should I do?" And then I can give them a rundown of like what I do for ankle rehab. And then one guy goes, "Oh, I've got this weird thing going on inside of my leg." And I'm like, "All right, well, is it painful?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Don't stretch it."
I have a
You know,
feeling at your academy, it's really hard for any students to come to you and say, "Yeah, I got to take a break from jujitsu because of my injury." I don't think they're
no,
going to get away with that with
doesn't
you, huh,
happen.
Rob?
Doesn't happen. You know, unless they break something, and even then, I might stick it in a cast, lie on the cast side, or at the very least, on like one student at a friend's academy, I hadn't seen him for a little while, and he turned up to class. He'd been hit by a car or something, so he was like really messed up. And I'm like, keep coming to the gym every day. Yeah, I go every day that you would normally train, keep coming to the gym.
And
Yeah,
do what you
Jason,
can
you
do,
say
right?
that a lot. Jason, you say that a lot. If you can't make it to the
because
gym, come and help people, come and watch others, watch the technique,
yep,
coach some other people, right?
yep,
Stay
yep.
involved
Yeah.
so that you still have that space and time and that consistency.
Human beings love routine. Yeah. Like, and we're in it, we have like, we're complete. So your life's complete. You've got your work, your wife and kids and all that. And a part of that is your jujitsu, right? You have a routine Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 o'clock, you do jujitsu, right? So let's say you get hit by a car. Yeah. And you're pretty messed up, broken leg, broken arm, or something like that, right? On Monday, Wednesday, Friday night, what are you going to do? You're going to sit at home, start drinking because you're depressed, and you start getting all messed up in your head. You're going to drive the wife crazy, yell at the kids. It's not going to be good. So you're better off getting in the car, drive to the academy, see all the familiar faces that you're used to seeing. They're all going to be cracking jokes with you. You're going to hang out maybe on the sidelines. I always try and get people on the mat, right? Because when you're sitting watching, you're a spectator, and people that like doing things don't like generally spectating. Right? People that are spectators don't like doing. People that do don't like spectating. So I try and get them on the mat. Yeah. Preferably not in crutches because it's bad for the mat. But if someone's not on crutches, like just hang out, sit on the side of the mat, walk around the floor, you know, and it's amazing when you watch something how much you learn when you're not doing it. A movement that you've seen the coach teach 1,000 times. This is a sweep from guard, white belt technique. You've seen it 1,000 times, you've done it 1,000 times, and then instead of doing it and being distracted by your body and your partner with the smelly breath or whatever it happens to be, you're just standing back watching. Yeah. And even when you're sitting on the mat watching your coach demonstrate a technique, you're thinking about something else. You're not 100% engaged, right? You're just, "Oh, I want to get on this and do this damn thing." When you can't do that, when you're not distracted by your own body and your training partner, it's amazing what you see. And so many people come up to me during that phase after a first or second day, and they're like, "You know what, Rob? I never noticed that thing that you do with your foot. You say it every single time. That thing you do with your foot, how important it is, until I was standing here just watching, not doing it. I didn't even really register that as particularly important."
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's stuff.
That's a call to action to anybody who's off the mats right now because of an injury or
Yeah.
because their life is busy or whatever it is. That's a great call to action.
So your first priority learning jiu-jitsu is not to learn jiu-jitsu. Your first priority is to figure out how you learn anything and then use that way to learn jiu-jitsu. So I'm always really interested in what people do for a job because that tells me how they learn and how they think. And then find that pathway that you've already been successful with to learn jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
Right.
It's like a
So
mental
yeah,
tool, like using a mental
yeah.
tool to
Jiu-jitsu
learn.
is all mental, it's not physical. Your brain tells your body what to do, right? Your body doesn't do things by itself. So how you think and how you learn is super important. Figuring out, am I auditory? Am I visual? Am I kinetic? You know, what other things have I learned? That's why they always say if you're a master of one, you're a master of all things. Because once
Right.
you learn one thing and you figure out the pathway that works for you can just adopt anything, put it in that pathway, and then learn it. It doesn't
Yeah.
You
And
know,
matter what it
it's
is.
the same thing with the philosophies of jujitsu too. The philosophies that you use, like for example, Jason, you always say this that your jujitsu journey is yours. Do not compare yourself to other people because that's going to steal all the joy of your jujitsu. Oh, I'm reading
Comparison
a
is
book
the
right
thief of joy.
now that's called The Psychology of Money, and it's a great book. It's all about how people think about money. And
Yeah,
I'm reading it. I'm like, this guy, it sounds like he does jujitsu because he said the
right.
same exact thing. He said, this is not a competition. Do not compare yourself to other people,
Yeah.
or you're gonna not want to play the game. You're never gonna be a happy
Find your way.
person. Right. So
Yeah.
these, just like you said, you can superimpose what you learn on the mats to everything else you do.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and I
So
like
I
that. I
often
like
go,
that concept there, Rob, when you're saying how, you get on the mats, and even if you're sitting down on the side and watching and learning technique,
yep,
you're engaged. So I feel like that concept of being present, and the wonderful thing about martial arts, not just jujitsu, but most martial arts, is that when you step into a gym, and you get onto the mats and you're with all of your training partners, even if you're not physically training because you're injured, there's that
it's
feeling of being
camaraderie.
present. You're kind of like present in the moment, and you're not thinking about all the negative thoughts that could come into your head. You're focused on what you're doing and learning jujitsu.
I know you said that applies to like older people, but I think that really applies to everybody. Do what you can, not what you want to. We don't always get to pick what we can be great at, but
Yeah.
there's always something we can do. And
And we
you
don't
talk,
usually start out being great. We always
no,
start sucking, right? So I say
almost
to the
always
white
right.
belts I say to the white belts all the time. And I'm like, is your jiu-jitsu sucking? They're like, yeah. I'm like, you're right where you need to be.
That's it. That's it. And for some of us, for me, it lasted longer than it should have, but
But
it does. It's a
that's
different
the
journey
word.
for
That's the word
everybody.
that I don't like is the word should.
Yes, you're right.
I
There
don't
should be
like
no
the word
should.
should. Should doesn't exist. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Because it's your journey. It's your journey.
Well,
It's
no,
not somebody
because
else's.
should literally doesn't exist because you're saying that there's an alternative reality where you could have done something else, but you didn't do it.
But and you didn't have it.
Not
You didn't have
real.
it to give. Right, right. It's
You either
hypothetical.
did it or you didn't do it. You can't
Right.
have a should.
Hey, it's like Yoda, do or do not. There is no try.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Some good philosophy there. What you said also reminded me of something Carolyn taught me from my gym. She's a very smart woman and a great roller. She said, whenever you get hurt, never replace your good habit that you had with a bad one. Make sure
Yes.
you replace it with another good one. Like you said,
Yep.
your example of that was okay. If I can't train jujitsu, I'm still going to go there. I'm still going to participate what I can, but then I'll bike. And if I
Yep.
can't
Default.
the default. I love that, and I think that is just a recipe for success in
Yep.
investing, in education,
It doesn't matter what
in
it is.
relationship. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is absolutely applicable to every. The last thing that I mean, there's a lot to pack up, but the last big thing that I love that you said is reframe things and be and be grateful. Gratitude.
Yep.
Like you said when
Gratitude.
you had your
Gratitude is where.
accident, you had your accident, somebody else had a worse one. You said, I'm going to reframe this. Listen, I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not in the worst place I could be right now, and I'm going to be
Yeah.
grateful that I'm not, and then I'm going to
Yeah.
work from that point. That is something that I think everybody can take and remind. We all know this, but we need to remind ourselves.
Yeah, and
So,
until we get put in that situation, we just take it for granted. Like you take for granted. I watch old videos of me before I smashed my knee up, and I'm like, damn, look at me kneeling and moving uninhibitedly and stuff like that.
and
But also from being injured, like a whole bunch of other amazing techniques have developed because, like when I smashed my back up, I used to have a pretty good guard. I always used my legs a lot, like most black belts would, but when you can't move your legs, you become a black belt, white belt. You've got a black belt brain, but you've got a white belt body. Legs don't work, only my arms. So as a result of that, I've developed a really amazing like hand fighting system and defense
mm,
system. And all of the black belts I train with and other belts are always going on about my defenses because and I'll literally go to some gyms and there'll be 6 or 7 black belts lining up trying to figure out how to tap me and they'll just take turns trying to get me, trying to get me, trying to get me. Because when you start from a position of I can't walk, I can only use my arms. And if you can defend yourself from that, as you
hmm
get these parts of your body back again, it just
You
makes it
maintain
get
pain.
so
What?
easy,
Yeah. It's
right?
like in the kung fu movies who was blind. You remember that? The
Yeah,
old
yeah,
kung fu. Yes, and like he learned everything from his other senses. So
yes,
I
yeah,
definitely think that's just a
yeah.
great philosophy to have. I think it applies to a lot of things. And I really think that your story is going to, we have all kinds of listeners from all kinds of walks of lives, and not everything is going stellar for every listener out there. So when
No,
you
no,
see,
never, definitely never is.
right, so when you see somebody like Rob who's been through a lot, who's seen a lot and never gave up, just remember that. You keep going, you never give
Keep
up.
going.
You look for gratitude and you do what you can, not what you want. Wishing you the best with your school, and I
Thank you.
hope you stay in touch with us.
I will. Thank you very
All
much,
right.
and
Bye bye.
stay. See you for sure.